We now are back talking about the Raiders, and joining us here from the NFL Combine is one of our favorite folks, longtime contributor here to the Silver and Black today, and that, of course, is Mr. Vinny Bonsignore. He is the beat writer, longtime NFL insider and writer as well, covering the NFL, all parts of the NFL, not just the Raiders. But now we are happy to say that Vinny is now a Las Vegas Valley resident. Vinny, let me be the first one to welcome you and your family here to Las Vegas and being part of our community. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy when I drive down the hill from my house. I can literally see the Raiders facility to my left, and if I look straight down, I could see the Raiders Stadium straight ahead of me. And I can anyone that's never been to Los Angeles, I could tell you that that's never been the case.
Yeah, I know.
You can see it, but it's about an hour and a half drive to go 5 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you can see it, sometimes that could be really deceiving. As you just said, it could still take you 2 hours to get there.
No, that's great. And Vinny, again, welcome. And it's awesome that you're going to be able to spend more time with your family. As a family guy myself too, fantastic that you can actually see people when they're awake and all that stuff. So good on you. Yeah, we shall see. All right, let's move on first. Before we get to the combine and the college players, yesterday you wrote about a free agent that the Raiders could have a very, very serious interest in, and a place that they need help. Of course, they need help all over the defense. At linebacker is one of the spots that we talk a lot about here on the show, Vinny. But you wrote about Byron Jones, the cornerback out of Dallas, the Cowboys. What are you hearing about him, and what the Raiders may do or how they may pursue him?
Well, by all accounts, Byron Jones is going to at least hit the open market in terms of, hearing other offers. The Cowboys we all know that the Cowboys have a lot of free agents, most notably Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, and those are their two highest priorities. A guy like Byron Jones would typically be a team's highest priority going into free agency, but because of the circumstance in Dallas, they have to make some hard decisions. And as a result of that, Byron Jones is going to hit the open market and test it. And the Raiders will be interested, and they're going to kick the tires on that. I think there's sincere and legitimate interest in him. And if you start projecting out, if they could get him at a cost that makes sense for them, now you're talking about one of the better shutdown corners in the league, and Byron Jones lining up opposite Trayvon Mullen, who's going to be in his second year from Clemson in 2020, who I thought really turned it on and up a notch toward the second half of last season, especially those last 5 or 6 games, and really, really opened up the eyes of the Raiders and was what they wanted him to be as a ball-hawking, physical, lanky, rangy cornerback. So now you're talking about a pretty good cornerback tandem if you can get a Byron Jones in free agency. He's one of a few guys that I think that they're going to be showing interest in. I expect them to be aggressive in free agency. I think Joe Schobert, linebacker from the Cleveland Browns, who also will test free agency. I think that the Raiders will be interested in him. Blake Martinez, inside linebacker from the Packers. Corey Littleton, a linebacker from the Rams, all of whom should probably hit the open market given what's going on with their current teams and their current team's salary cap. So there's going to be some options for the Raiders defensively and offensively when you start looking at some of the wide receivers that should hit the open market as well. There's a chance for the Raiders with the money that they have under the cap and the draft capital that they have to make another significant step forward this year from last year. And that's the whole plan, whether it's at quarterback or across the board defensively. They feel like they have an opportunity to get better, better this offseason.
Well, and Vinny, and they could, and again, we're talking to Vinny Bonsignore from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He covers the Raiders. And Vinny, I know, too, that there might be other moves that the Raiders make that could clear up even more space as well. So that'll be interesting. Now let's talk about the Combine since you're there and you've been watching all of it in all its glory. And of course, we talk about linebacker and we talk about cornerback and we talk about wide receiver. Who have the Raiders really just from what you can tell fallen in love with, or not fallen in love with? I shouldn't say, that's pretty strong. That really like. I know Kenneth Murray's a guy that they like going in. Has that been reinforced for them? And another guy that I like because I'm just an Irish football fan, much to Kelly's chagrin because he's a Michigan guy. Chase Claypool, though, I know you tweeted a couple times about him and how he's impressed. So talk a little bit about linebacker first with the Raiders and what they've seen, and then at the wide receiver position.
Well, specifically about Kenneth Murray, there's no doubt that he struck the right chord with the Raiders. Wow, what an impressive kid. And I got to say this, this year's group of players is about as impressive as I've seen in a long time in terms of just maturity and demeanor and all of the things that you look for in a person and in a football player. And specifically for the Raiders, who it might sound cliche, but they put a premium on good characters, guys that want to play football, guys that have a passion for football and have integrity about them. There's a lot of those guys this year in Indianapolis, and Kenneth Murray might be at the top of that list. Just a super impressive kid, and then you put the tape on, and he's just as good as a football player as he is a person. So he plays a need, a position for the Raiders in terms of a quarterback of your defense, a guy that's going to be an anchor for your defense in the middle at linebacker, a guy that can play the run, the pass. Obviously, playing in the Big 12, he's had to cover tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. So he's a guy that I would certainly keep an eye on. Patrick Queen from LSU, didn't start till his senior year, didn't start until a couple of games into his senior year. But boy, by the end of the season, he was an anchor for that, terrific LSU defense. So he's another linebacker that I would keep an eye on. Chase Claypool, he's been one of my favorites all along. Watched a lot of him in college at Notre Dame, but he blew up at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was the best wide receiver, in Mobile a couple of weeks ago, late January. So you have a Chase Claypool, but I think that they're going for the big hunting at wide receiver in the draft, and so obviously CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, but I think those first two are the guys that they would be most interested when their pick comes around at number 12, if they aren't looking to draft a quarterback.
Hey, Vinny, it's Chaz. Yeah, you mentioned both of those positions, and it's what I was hearing Mike Mayock talking a lot about the wide receiver position. You kind of answered my question there. What sense do you think? What direction do you think that the Raiders might go in with the draft? Wide receiver first, linebacker, one of each. All defense. What do you what sense are you getting being around these guys this week?
Yeah, still up in the air about quarterback. There are some people who think that, if you believe in mock drafts, there's some mock drafts out there that have Jordan Love from Utah State going to the Raiders at number 12. He's certainly opened up a lot of eyes, whether it was the Senior Bowl or this week in Indianapolis. So, because he plays such an important position, quarterback, you can't rule that out. If Isaiah Simmons, there's no way at this point that he falls to number 12. But boy, if he did, the Raiders would, be like Usain Bolt running to the podium to put his card in there. But I think it goes wide receiver, linebacker, because I think those two linebackers that I mentioned will be there at 19, one or the other or both. So I would say wide receiver at 12, linebacker at number 19. It's just a matter of who it is. But this is a certainty. They're going to have an opportunity to really help themselves with those first two picks at positions of dramatic need for them.
Again, Vinny Bonsignore from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Vinny, before we let you go, kind of what's the overall sense just around the radio organization? Clearly moving to Las Vegas, as you've just done as well, there's excitement here in our community. What's the rest of the league? What's the view with what Gruden and Mayock are doing, what they have, what they're trying to build, and the relocation here to Las Vegas?
I think there's a lot of respect for what Mike and John have done in the time that they've been together. It's really just 1 year that the tandem has been together with Mike and John. They knocked it out of the park last year with their draft. Obviously, Antonio Brown didn't work out. We all know that. Terrell Williams, another wide receiver that they acquired in free agency, unfortunately because of injuries, but there's still high hope for him if his feet are healthy, and it looks like he's closing in on that based on everything that I've been able to hear and talk to some people. But there is respect for them around the league, and I think there's a general excitement around football for the Raiders going to Las Vegas. I think everyone's curious about that and excited about that, and no one's more excited than the Raiders. Boy, these guys, when they start talking about their new home, their new practice facility in Henderson and the new stadium, they finally have a home.
Yes.
And I know that's no disrespect to Oakland. Obviously, those were fabulous fans up there. But the Raiders, in a lot of ways, with their stadium situations, have been nomads. Whether they, coming down to Los Angeles or going back up to Oakland, they haven't had a football stadium home like so many other of their colleagues around the NFL have been able to secure. Now they have that, and they're beyond excited about starting that new life with that, and with no state tax in Las Vegas, a great new practice facility, a place where people want to come watch games and live. So everything is lining up for them to really make their mark, and they're super excited about getting started.
All right, Vinny, as always, a pleasure, man. We appreciate you taking time. I know it's been a very busy week, and we will catch up with you again, I'm sure, very soon.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Vinny Bonsignore from the Las Vegas Review-Journal with your latest update on free agents, on college players, on draft, on the combine. Great, great stuff. We're going to step aside.